If you want to say a few words.
Yeah, so Ali, just if I may, just to set our goals here, are we
Absolutely.
looking for high level commentary on the document? We're not looking at like line edits or anything. We're just looking to get just the general feedback on the big ideas.
Exactly right.
Okay, cool. Sometimes, we have very specific tasks. Other times we have, everybody. So yeah, so thank you to Terrence and Dr. Russell Tucker for joining and everybody for joining this. I know you had a choice of where to go, but as Terrence, let you know we're going to win whatever the game is. We're going to be the group that wins here. So we're looking specifically at that pillar, which has been here from the start of the Governor's Workforce Council around education and career pathways. And really what we're looking at, I think the key or one of the key stats in there is that 44% of our high school graduates aren't college ready. So there's a lot to unpack in all of that. But just from a workforce perspective, that's 44% of people that we're excluding from that from potential workforce here. So we've got folks looking at all of the access, equity, everything, the logistics from childcare and transportation. We've got people looking at in another group on how the industry is going to continue to push their leadership and inform groups like this. But really what we're looking at is, do we have the right foundation here? Are we getting the right places to start to create those pathways which will open up more doors for people that are considering jobs in Connecticut, and those doors to more people that may have never considered them before? So is this the right place to start? Terrence, Charlene, does that sound
Yeah,
a good way to go?
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I would just I would just add again, just kind of reiterating a little bit of what Jeff said. So we don't kind of go down a wormhole or try to boil the ocean, right? Staying really focused, but then also understanding, I would say that, that this is not an independent, self-sufficient silo, right? Everything affects everything. And so I think that if there are really salient connections to a different pillar or to another factor that might technically reside outside of this particular arena that we're focusing on, that should be noted, right? Because we're just not going to be able to do certain things without other kind of assets or being able to leverage other pieces as we try to move ahead. So,
I
but
agree.
yeah,
I agree with that. I was going to say, let's be thoughtful about the links that needs to be made, because this cannot live in its own space. It's got to be supported, right, prior to and after. So I totally agree with that.
yeah. And so,
And you'll see it. Go
so
ahead.
maybe I'll just kind of start off, right? And I apologize for those of you who have heard me kind of jump on this soapbox and holler about it. But, at the end of the day, all of this work takes very intentional resourcing, right? Which is my very political way of saying it's got to be funded, right? And at the end of the day, like we have everyone's got a full-time job already. Some of us have several full-time jobs that count as one full-time job. And our funds are spoken for, especially in the government sector. So, I think it would be prudent, maybe not here in this space because we don't have a ton of time, but maybe to flag, I'll just kind of start it off, that kind of intentional or earmarked funding that is sustainable, that ties back to this work in a very measurable, accountable way, is really important, or else we do end up just kind of fielding what feels like an unfunded mandate and being held accountable for something that we may not ultimately have control over, right? And so I'll just kind of throw that first kind of note out there, and then maybe just open up the floor in other areas too. The last thing I'll say, I promise I'll shut up for a few minutes, is the pillars, at least from my perspective, they seem right to me, right? I look at those categories of where the work is, right? And how we can align things from a higher ed perspective. I look at those big initiatives, dual enrollment, dual credit, dual degree. Those those are exactly the things that we want to, and we are already focusing on it in myriad ways. But so I don't have any concerns with the pillars, but anyway, like I said, I'll stop talking. Thank you.
Looks like you have your hand up.
Hi, everybody. I'm not sure who's talking.
Sorry,
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you.
who's driving? I think Kathleen had her hand up first.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. That I can't show my video. I'm in a room at the university, and there's apparently something's going on with the camera. But I just wanted to tie something into what Terrence Chang said from the original governor's workforce the governor's plan in 2020. And that was one thing that it did talked about is it kind of addressed resources that were needed, especially to help students through some kind of career development phase that they, especially in the higher education space, it did talk even about ratios because of the need to have focused people that really could guide students, because this is frankly a very high touch area. If you're trying to help students figure out who they are, what they want to do, and what opportunities are out there for them, it's very high touch. I don't know if that is because I haven't seen the new plan, but I will say that that's going to be absolutely essential, that having some kind of resources that are going to actually affect this plan to help them through it. Because right now, especially at the Connecticut State University system, we have none.
Thank you for that, Kathleen. I think Sue, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, to go off of that, to build on what Kathleen said, I think that we do a really good job in the Connecticut State College and University system on building bridges with the credit programs. But I think where we could build faster trainings and could use more funding for the students to gain that training, and I think Amy will give a high five with me on this one, is through the workforce development and continuing education departments. We are very nimble. We're able to get things up and running very, very quickly. Problem is the students aren't FAFSA eligible under those programs or PACT eligible under those programs. But in order to get resources into the workforce, we can do that much faster. And we can, although we bridge credit programs, we don't do a good job of bridging credit students to workforce programs. The workforce development, non-credit programming through micro-credentialing, certifications, whatever that may be. So I think we could build upon that aspect.
And so I will add to that as you're making the case for kind of in the higher ed world, the sustainable funding is also very important in the K-12 space to make these linkages. If not, you're susceptible to places that may be resourced or the types of partnerships that they have. And we see that, right? So we just have to make sure, going back to, I guess, tying all of this together is sustainable resourcing. I think it's really important for us to then realize all the goals that we have here.
Is there an opportunity to maybe link other nonprofit organizations? And I'm just thinking like OPP or something along those lines to help gain funding and tap into the students that may not. There's students in certain areas of the state, we all know this, that aren't as readily given the opportunity to do higher education. We try to get there, but we're not in there as much as we could. So if we can tap into those populations, we can actually change the economic landscape for those students in the future and help them get, oh, Larry's here. That's exciting. So if we could tap into those kind of resources, then that would be very helpful. Sorry, Larry, you distracted me.
That's a really great introduction for Larry. No pressure, Larry. I just thought though, I know several of us know each other. Not everyone knows everyone. So maybe just a quick kind of name and where you're from, so to speak, which organization, just so we kind of level set, because us CSCU folks think we're the center of the universe, you know, so that's not the case. Larry, go ahead.
Hi, Larry Cavino, Executive Director for the Connecticut Association for Adult and Continuing Ed. And I just want to add and reiterate what Sue was talking about. We've worked with the community college systems now for many years with regards to our adult learners. And I think, we often talk about K-12 and higher ed. And at some point before I leave this role, we're going to include adult education. We're that in-between piece. We're part of K-12 or under Russell Tucker's entity, but we are our own separate programming. And we're able to also pivot very quickly with regards to needs that are out there. We're working now with thousands and thousands of individuals who are second English language learners, as well as the 225,000 individuals in the state of Connecticut who do not have a high school diploma, who are underemployed or unemployed. And, I ask that you just please keep us in mind as we progress through this. We're partners with many organizations that are here in the other breakout rooms today. And, we are a part of this program, and we have career counseling, we have career pathway navigators. We can offer all of that as well. Thank you.
Larry, that's awesome. And thank you for that. And I'll be honest, I've been in this role for almost, it'll be 3 years in June, right? And, I don't think my office or you and I haven't had a sit down, right? And that's criminal. And I'll take responsibility for that, because as the landscape changes, as we know, demographic, kind of trends are changing, and the number of kind of, K-12 graduates that would go straight to high school, those numbers continue to be pressured and decrease in the Northeast and New England. Higher education needs to serve the population that you're talking about, right? We have to do that more diligently and more effectively, and with ever many options. And so that's a big part of our strategy. I would love to, could you tag me through private message with your email, and then I'll get my team and I set up with you and your folks? That would be great. Thank you for that.
Definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'll switch hats real quickly. A similar notion, I think. I don't see any mention of CTEX in our plan as well. So we have, our largest school district in the state is our technical trade program. And as a disclaimer, I said on the board, but it seems like in the same way that continuing ed is a no-brainer here to be included in the conversation. We should probably look in there. Hey, Todd, can I push it over to you a little bit? You have seen the ins and outs, the details, where the stones that need to be unturned. When you look at this, how does this feel in kind of a doability, feasibility kind of perspective?
All right, Jeff, no pressure on that one. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to first comment on what Sue brought up. I have been a staunch proponent. First of all, I'm Todd Birch. I'm the State Apprenticeship Director. I work under Dante Bartolomeo and Mark Mazzella, Department of Labor. Full disclosure, as Jeff said, I also sit on the CTEX Board of Education. Graduate of the system, taught in the system, and have been a lifelong apprentice until now. So that being said, what Sue said earlier, this is a big issue nationwide. Having the ability for people to go to credit programs and actually get a college loan for it. Somebody has to take the initiative going forward for credit bearing or non-credit bearing certificate programs to have access for them to get their student loan to go there. It's that simple. And this is, I'm working on this on a national level. That is a huge barrier, epic barrier. My good friend Larry, we have had success, Jeff, to your question, on integrating registered apprenticeship academic, not your academic credits, Mr. Chang, but the related instruction credits for manufacturing in adult education. I'm the hugest proponent of adult education due to the fact that these folks, for the most part, have self-identified that their life has had some challenges. They woke up and decided to enroll into an adult education type of initiative. Those, my friends, in my opinion, are the ones that are actually your next candidates to become your next employees, regardless of what they choose to do. So those are just two observations I had, Jeff, and thank you for calling me out. Hopefully I had the right answer.
It works. It works. David.
Thank you. Hi. Dave Garvey at Career Resources. I couldn't find my raised hand button, so thanks for seeing the hand. For the last 3 years, we've been doing analysis of individuals leaving incarceration. And 65% of the people in incarceration, when they leave, don't have a GED. I'm thinking that's low-hanging fruit that should be considered in helping our people reentering into the community.
Yeah.
Some of the prisons actually do have GED programs within them.
Mhm.
I don't know how we tap into that population to get them to participate, be more willing to participate. Because when they're enrolled in like the Second Chance Pell organizations or those programs, they're very great. They're great students. They're dedicated and they really want to learn. So if we can kind of get that to be the culture of the system that we have here in Connecticut, that to your point, it's kind of a low-hanging fruit.
Thank you.
I think Shelley had her hand up.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I appreciate the conversation. I guess one of my issues is everybody's not going to college. Everybody's not going to be part of that workforce, and everybody's not coming out of prison. We need to do something that we used to have in education for young adults who wanted to be mechanics, who wanted to be engineers, who wanted to be plumbers, who wanted to be part of the trades. Is that anywhere in this pillar? Is there any funding set out for that? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, I think, you know, to a few people's points, right? We got to start moving away from the idea that education is this very kind of clean and pure continuum of K-12 into either community college or college into a job and, you know, spend 40 years living in a great town and so on. It just doesn't work that way anymore. And I think recent kind of reports and data, whether it's the Dalio report on youth that aren't going anywhere, right? Like over 100,000 or something to that effect. I remember the number's very big, right? There are a lot of people who are graduating from high school with no plan. And that's not a denigration. That's just an observation that, you know, we need to do better to help those students, right? And we can't forget, thank you for that, Larry, 119, I wasn't that far off. But then, so what I'm hearing so far, I'm just taking some notes in terms of it seems like a let's not forget kind of category, right? Whether they are adult continuing education, professional learners, you know, those who are reskilling or upskilling, folks who are already in the CTEC system, folks who are in apprenticeship programs, those who are justice impacted, those who are geared towards more trade careers, right? I mean, these are people that maybe are not always part of that mainstream thinking that plans like this may tend to kind of, you know, center on. So if we in our recommendations and our feedback can make this as kind of multifaceted or polychromatic as possible, we can capture as many people as possible, because that's how we're really going to help the state's economy, by getting as many people supported, trained, educated, and into really great jobs and help their lives as we can. So, okay, back to hands. Lillian, is that right?
That's correct. It's Lillian Bruff with Efficiency for All High. So a lot of our trainees who come through our programs have either gone to college for a couple of semesters or they've done other programs, and they're already in debt when they come into our program. And I feel like there's an opportunity there maybe to address that issue where they are already feeling very down in the dumps, like, what did my education even get me getting through high school and all those other things? And then I went to college for a couple of semesters, and I have $10,000 in debt and I'll never be able to come up with that. Is there something we can put into the plan or think about putting into the plan which would help people attain a way to pay that off without having, I don't want to give hands out. We're more about hand up rather than hand out, but there needs to be a way, I think, to be able to attain that ability. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a great point, Lillian. I mean, I know that Representative Paris, Corey Paris, is working hard on a student loan or student debt forgiveness program. He's been pushing that pretty aggressively. So, now I don't know if that matches exactly with what you're talking about, but I think that there's some thinking there already, which is great. And again, part of what we can kind of try to make a recommendation towards. I believe Devra was the next hand.
Hi, thank you. Wanted to introduce myself. I'm Deborah Sisitsky from Makerspace CT. And so we've spent a lot of time looking at the landscape and understanding what our place is. We have a 30,000 square foot facility in downtown Hartford where we have 10 unique shops, wood shop, metal shop, machine shop. We teach VR, AI, a lot of additive manufacturing or 3D printing. We're open to the public, but we offer a lot of scholarship classes. And what we've learned over the past 5 years is that it's important, as you guys have stated, to introduce these kind of technologies to students at a younger age. So I was once just an adult-only facility, and now we do a lot of work with middle school, and we're even starting a program in robotics for girls that are going to school in downtown Hartford that are, 5th to 8th grade. We really try and introduce people to technologies and give them introductory skills so that they can go on to community colleges or high schools at that point. So we act as a feeder, but we also have programs for young adults in that 18, I'm going to say to 29 range, when people sort of look up and say, oh, they're 25 and they missed the first chance. What am I going to do now? And we give them introduction to engineering. We teach a lot of CAD. We teach a lot of machining, but not the comprehensive classes. We have welding, plasma cutting. So we try and teach all these things so that people can get an idea of how things are made. We think CAD is really foundational. And once you understand that and look at the world in a different way, you kind of understand what pathways are out there. And we try and connect those a lot of times in our classes to jobs that are on Indeed, and we have job fairs. So there's smaller groups like us that are out there trying to fill the need and supplement what our education, K through 12 and higher ed is certainly doing to support them and make it easier.
It's awesome, Deborah. I mean, as you're speaking, I just personally, I think, there are assets out there like you and your work and your organization that can we give them even more support through greater connectivity, whether it's to the community or through our education partners or what have you. So I made a note on that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I think even having your community come in and talk to our students about what options there are is a great opportunity.
Yes, yeah, I like that. Sue's nodding, so Sue will make that happen for us. Patricia, I believe you're up next.
Yes, thanks. Patricia Meyer. I'm with the Stanford Partnership. I'm the Good Jobs Challenge Grant Director. Prior CT State employee, so good to see Sue on the call. She's a peer of mine when I was there. I worked at Quinnebog Valley, so had a lot of experience on the eastern part of the state. In my new role with the Stanford Partnership and in support of the Good Jobs Challenge Grant, I'm thinking about that high school to career pathway. We're focused on tech in the Southwest Connecticut Tech Partnership and thinking about talent and wanting to connect those students that are juniors and seniors into a tech career pathway that's supplemented by training programs that exist at community colleges and four-year schools. And so I chose this group over the sector partnership or the sector training one because I'm looking for the plan or the current state of career readiness in high schools in the state of Connecticut. When I look for information, especially Connecticut's complicated, right? We've got all of these public school systems within the state that we need to connect to. So just hoping to get a vision, if not here, maybe direction for understanding what the K-12 system wants to see as far as career readiness in conjunction with college readiness, or on that high school to occupation pathway, whether it's apprenticeship or not, non-traditional occupations and apprenticeship. I'm just would love to hear what the future state could be, or what is, where are the centers of excellence in Connecticut that are doing a good job of getting students from high school into a career pathway.
So Patricia, I'll just respond quickly and say, and I don't know if everyone's had a chance. I just literally grabbed a few minutes to do a hard scan of the document that is posted right now. But if we go through that document and you look at this iteration and even the previous iteration that's online, I think that's what we're trying, right? The group is trying to create that map, or to detail those expectations, or what outcomes would be. And as Ali's scrolling through, I mean, if you look at some of the work that has already happened, it's actually quite heartening, right? And I'll take a moment just, to be selfish and say, I feel like Connecticut's really negative sometimes, like almost like to the point of self-loathing. Like we just focus on negative things and all the things that we don't do or we're not great at. And this list is like a really good reminder of, wow, there's some really good things going on here. And it's just a small portion, but it shows a lot of synergy. It shows a lot of development in what I would say is a pretty brief amount of time. If you think about when the Governor's Workforce Council actually started, a lot of really good things have come of that work since 2020. And so I think that's kind of the path we're on, and it's heartening to see that. But I've made notes just for, Stanford Partnership and Makerspace CT. Again, this is kind of like hey, we have to connect the dots here, because just because you're not part of a big state agency doesn't mean that you're not a really important dot to be connected into the kind of total trajectory of the work. I believe that's my good friend, Dean John Elliott. Is that correct?
That would be correct, Terrence. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm John Elliott. I'm the Dean of the School of Business at UConn. And I would observe a couple of things, and I probably will take too long, but the first thing I would observe is that being part of the Governor's Workforce Council has been really eye-opening in terms of the number of people who are deeply invested in the success of our young people, our older people, our population, the workforce. It's really remarkable what we all are doing, and each of us has our own avenue and each of us has our own place, but it's terrific. I would say a couple of things. One, from the standpoint of the University of Connecticut, there are two things that we do that people probably don't know we do that I think are good. One is called the Financial Literacy Innovation Program, and it's a program where we reach out to high schools and we invite students from the junior and senior year in high school to come to campus and engage with our junior and senior students at the university to think about what it means to plan their future. And honest to goodness, we are not trying to just recruit people to UConn. We're trying to ask people, what do you aspire to? What do you want to do? And if it is the trades, that's great. But know what you're doing, know why you're doing it, and know what it's going to cost you. So that's an example of something we do. A second example of something we do is a program where we essentially provide high schools the opportunity to teach courses from UConn to their students, with the students getting UConn credit on a transcript for their future. And so I noticed one of the slides today was about advanced placement. This is a form of advanced placement, and I think it belongs in the litany of what we do in the state of Connecticut for our students, because it's thousands of students who go through this and who benefit from it. The other thing I wondered about was that, have we approached the question of I'm not always in favor of consultants. I often think it's money misspent. But good public relations and good outreach to the Fourth Estate and having journalists writing about the good work that the governor's Workforce Development Council is doing could really help families think more about pathways. And I don't know if we do that. Do you know, Terrence? Do we do that?
Well, I think we do, and it's probably not enough, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's part of the challenge here is that we've got a lot of,
Oh, there's so much going on.
yeah, exactly. And I do think it's about dot connecting, right? And UConn plays a big role. And I think UConn has the largest slice of the dual enrollment pie right now for the state. So thank you for that, Dean Elliott. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Terrence. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're getting the 93, 92, 91-second call here that we're gonna end. Anyone need to kind of get their kind of 2 cents in before we get shoved back into the main room? Sorry, I know we're missing some hands. Sue, Todd, Rebecca, you haven't spoken yet. You got like 80 seconds.
Sure. Rebecca Rose, Regional Director of Agricultural Education for Lyman Hall High School, Wallingford. I run 8 different pathways specific to agriculture, food, and natural resources. Of those, 3 are credit-bearing opportunities with a variety of different institutions, and 6 of them are industry certification programs. 2 of the certificates we issue are lifelong. So kids that are juniors and seniors in high school are getting HACCP certifications and safe boating licenses, et cetera. So I feel like our little pocket of the world is really helping to make this vision possible.
Excellent. Perfect timing. Well, thank you for the vigorous discussion. It was really great. I think this is helpful. I took the notes. I'll do the report out and you guys can correct me if I screw anything up. And we can go from there, but thanks.